Hello, Internet. This is Sophia, doing my best on this channel to bolster social justice and the general betterment of society through the powers of logic, reason, and respect for evidence. And this time I'm doing it as a live stream because since it's just 2 days after Election Day, I can't exactly ignore the election in this episode, but since things are still so much in flux, if I were to go through the whole process of scripting, producing, post-production editing, and all that, I would run too much of a risk of things that I say being out of date by the time the video becomes visible on YouTube. Granted, there's never a time when there's no risk of those things happening, but in this situation, the risk of that would be especially high, so that's a chance that I'm not ready to take. Anyways, according to the election map, which I see on Google, which I believe Google gets from the Associated Press, Biden still has 264 votes, and electoral votes, that is, not real votes by real people. I mean, just electoral votes in that old institution that's a remnant of slavery, those kinds of electoral votes. Biden has 264 votes. Trump has 214 electoral votes, and it looks like more likely than not Biden is going to be the next president. However, it is still a shameful day to be an American, because this is not an election between two people who both believe in treating everybody with dignity and respect, but disagree on other things that aren't just matters of basic human dignity. No, one of these two candidates is Donald Trump, who is a sociopathic fascist, and that's not hyperbole. It has been very well documented that he follows very much the technical definition of a fascist. A sociopathic fascist with no regard for the rule of law, and who has completely mismanaged a global pandemic, and still, more than just a small fringe of people voted for him. If a small fringe group had voted for him, I would have thought, yeah, that's unfortunate, but way too inevitable for us as a nation to be ashamed of that. But when a noticeable chunk of the American voting population, let alone probably over 45%, vote for such an evil person, that is something that we as a nation ought to be ashamed of. I mean, it is totally perverse. Now, I've heard some people say that what matters most isn't who you vote for, but how you treat people who vote. It mentions here, somebody mentioned in a tweet, in a comment, Trump is a malignant racist too. That's absolutely right. He is a malignant racist, although that is kind of implicit in fascist, as I am not aware of any way that someone can be a fascist without being a malignant racist. By the way, hi Bree, thank you so much for the comment, but yeah, I do not know any way that somebody can be a fascist without being a malignant racist, so that's kind of was implicit when I said fascist, but you're right, it doesn't hurt to also say that explicitly and not just implicitly. So, anyways, that is how it is. That is the reason why I think that this is not the kind of situation where we should be respectful of whoever someone votes for, because this is not one of those sane world elections that is properly applicable to. And there is, a matter of fact, a meme that is going around on Facebook now. And yes, it is. Yes, the fact that many are still supporting him is sad, and it is a commentary on the state of humanity, and it's also a commentary on the state of society. Anyways, I want to show you a certain meme that has been going around at Facebook, which really says how people like me feel very poignantly. Here it goes, and it says, "May you never know the fear of having your human rights challenged every time there is an election. And may you never know the pain of watching loved ones vote against your right to exist fully, equally, and authentically." Oh yes, you're right. You said, I just got another message. I misread earlier when it mentioned that he's a malignant and racist. I misread. Apparently Trump's a malignant narcissist. And yes, he is a malignant narcissist. I'll have to check the definition of a fascist later to see whether or not that's also implicit. But yes, he is a malignant. I would definitely agree. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist, and even if I were, there would still be this Goldwater rule thing. Even if I were a psychologist, but in my amateur opinion, I think that which is a completely amateur opinion, yes, I think that Trump is also a malignant narcissist. And I will look up to see whether or not how much that is. Are all fascists narcissists? Are all fascists narcissists? Apparently it says, and one person says on Quora that it says, so yeah, it's not, you're right, it's not necessarily implicit in when I said fascist. So yeah, he also is I would agree to adding that he's a malignant narcissist. But anyway, so that's the thing, is that I wanted to share with everybody that meme, and I'll show it again since there's more people who joined us since I last showed it. And it says, may you never know the fear of having your human rights challenged every time there is election, and may you never know the pain of watching loved ones vote against your right to exist fully, equally, and authentically. And that is how it is. It is painful when you watch people who you used to think of as your friends vote that you shouldn't be guaranteed to be allowed to exist in public, that you should have places like the restroom be made dangerous to you due to completely unfounded and often more explicitly malicious fears, but fears which at very least are unfounded. Usually they're spread by people who are doing it maliciously, but many people who buy into it, do so out of ignorance, but either way, it's unfounded. And making restrooms unsafe for you, making it dangerous for you to even exist in society, making it difficult for many transgender people to find proper employment. And not to mention, not just transgender people, black people. Oh, and not to, oh yeah, then I completely forgot. There's lots of people who are both transgender and black who are getting double whammied by this excremental excuse for an administration. I would not say excremental if I were not on a live stream where I can't beat myself out. I would not say, well, you know what I would have said otherwise. But anyways, that's what it is like. The elections are like fear, and depending on who your loved ones are, emotional pain. It's wrenching. And to tell me that I should just smile about someone voting in a way that is so hostile to my existence, that's gaslighting. And gaslighting is not a good thing to do. I mean, if you look back at a history book and reading about a German person who lived during or before World War II, what would impress you most about them? If it is somebody who did something courageous to resist the Nazi regime, someone who saved the lives of some Jews, some Romani, or some other people whom Nazis were targeting, such as LGBTQI people, someone who resisted the Nazis or saved lives of people in any of these demographics? Or would you look favorably on somebody whose great accomplishment is keeping their ties and long-standing relationships with Nazi friends and family? Obviously, it would be those who resisted the regime and who saved lives. History won't look on this any different. To say that someone has to, above all else, treat nicely people who vote in a manner that is just evil is gaslighting. And gaslighting is something that I am not going to buy into. And treating this election which is an election between those who do and those who don't believe in treating human beings with basic decency and dignity, as being the same as treating this election the same as an election between two candidates who both believe in treating all human beings with dignity but disagree on something else that isn't about human decency. Treating this election like an election like that is a case of a fallacy called false equivalence. False analogy. False analogy. I would have even made this a segment of Fallacy Exposed if I had things set up in order to have segments of Fallacy Exposed on a live stream. But you can imagine that Fallacy Exposed logo here. Anyone who says that, their fallacy is false analogy, because those two things are not at all the same. I'm not saying that they don't have the right to vote, because saying that they shouldn't have the right to vote that way would be putting the cart before the horse. But I am not going to respect the views of someone who will not respect my existence. Anyway, unless anyone has any further comments, comments, which I will wait for, or questions, I think I will be closing in just a minute since I've kind of said everything that I really have to say. Still nothing has changed on the electoral map. Since, let me see, yeah, nothing's changed in the electoral map since the start of this episode, so there's really nothing new to report. Hopefully the next time I do a live stream, I'll be a bit more together than this, because as you may know, I'm not really used to doing live streams, but maybe if I get more used to it, I might do more in the future. And I hope I'll be more together than this. So anyway, until please subscribe to this channel, like, share, and comment. And until next time, see ya!